Hazy, you're going to write the draft book. I also think we need to start doing the Wolfie Blitzer situation room. We get the music. We get a Wolf Blitzer, some kind of sound, and we put something, a situation. Because today I think I would put the Habs in the situation room. I think that they're going to go through a bit of a grind. I know it was just one game, but it just seems like the Habs would be in the situation room today. I'm not kidding. I used my Ninja last night, cooks a steak in 6 minutes. I turned the game on, got the steak in the Ninja. I sat down. It was 4-0. 6 minutes the steak takes.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching that game, and I was watching Ottawa's game was delayed. Both of them, the Ninja steak.
George Foreman over here.
Yeah, exactly. But
the point is, the Ninja takes nothing to cook, and I sat down. I turned the game off. I'm like, this game's over already. It's 4-0.
And like you said, Ottawa, same thing. They just destroyed
Ottawa had a power outage, so they were delayed by 20 minutes because their game was supposed to start at the same time as the Habs, but they had a full power outage in the building apparently, and everything was delayed. But you know what? We see this all the time early in the season. Teams out to lunch and high scores. Like it's I don't know. It happens, but I thought Montreal from the drop of the puck was completely out to lunch. And if you look at Bjorkstrand's goal, like that was just Arbor Jack. Just literally backhanded it and put it to nobody, and they just threw it out front. He goes, okay, I'll one-time it in the net for the fourth goal. Like, that's just brain-dead hockey. And sometimes guys are out to lunch. Same thing. If you look at number 81 there, Adam Gaudette's second goal last night, just Google it. There was a guy for St. Louis who tried a DDD pass. He just put it on a stick. And so Gaudette just shot it in the net.
There's some more noodles. I'm trying to tell you, like, it's a watered-down league. There's 5 guys on every team that shouldn't be in the league.
Well, and it's even more pronounced in a place like Montreal where they've got injury problems. You know, like they've had injury issues, and it does feel a little bit darker and a little bit uglier there. You know, that the rebuild was supposed to turn in a better direction this year. I don't think anyone was under the illusion that they were a playoff team, but you have to take a step. And like last week, I think it was last week or earlier this week, Marty St. Louis already kind of getting into it with the media and, talking about how he doesn't listen to anyone. And I wouldn't care about your criticism if I wouldn't ask for your advice. And it was almost as if Marty, he was trying a little bit too hard to make everyone believe that he's not hearing the noise. And, St. Louis was a guy we talked about extensively coming into the year that it's very rare. You see the kid glove coach turn into the closer coach. Same guy. Very difficult to do. Darko Rajokovic trying to do it with the Raptors.
He gets punted before they turn the corner.
Generally speaking, Charlie Montoyo and the Darkos and Marty St. Louis, I know he's a Hall of Famer and everyone loves Marty. It's a very tough thing to do. And it's, I think in Montreal they've been very patient.
Yeah.
But
even Marty
they're starting
being
to get
a
a little
Hall of
out.
Famer.
But I don't think their record's bad. They got 9 points. Like they got blown out last night. Like it's not like they're have one win on the season. Like I think
I don't know what to tell you. I'm just explaining what literally happened. Marty St. Louis was kind of going at it with, I don't know if it was the media or whatever. But some of the losses, though, Noodles, have been kind of ugly in Montreal. And listen, the record is what it is.
Right.
Fine. Opening night, I thought the Leafs were significantly better. Montembeault played very well. But I don't know. I'm not – what I've seen of them doesn't suggest that they're going to be in this race the rest of the year. I just find that very hard to believe.
I think they can be an 80-point team. That's what I think this year. So what would that be?
I take the under on that, personally.
So what would that
80
be?
doesn't get you into the playoffs.
No, exactly.
No, but I don't think they're a playoff team. I don't think anybody.
80's respectable. You know, like 80 for a young team dealing with some injuries. Like if they finished with 82, like a point a game, that's not. It's not
Guys,
all. That would be a
they
step
have to
forward.
ask themselves. They're going to have to ask themselves come February to March. Only one question: are we actually turning a corner here with these players that we have? And if the answer is no, then you got serious problems. If the answer is yes, then you keep trucking forward.
Okay, so last year they had 76 points. I think they're a better team than they were last year.
Okay, then that's what they have to say to themselves, Jamie. Come February, March, April, do we believe that we're tracking in the right direction? Are we better than last year? Are these players going to continue to get better? Are we going to be next year where it's pretty much going to be non-negotiable because the development is like you can't keep going to that? Like you would think next year they'd have to make the playoffs, wouldn't you?
I think you got a trend in that direction.
Yeah.
I think that's where they are. I mean, we're talking about Suzuki playing in that ridiculous thing in February. And then
Caulfield's had a great start.
Caulfield's got 9 goals already.
Had a great start.
They've got some guys that are
but Slavkovsky's been banged up. Like Laine's out.
Yeah.
They've had some injuries on the back end.
Yeah.
I think a couple guys are returning. I think
by no means am I dumping on them, but they gotta get to a point where they're like, we are turning the corner and we are going to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a process for them. I really do. I don't think that at the start of the season, anybody thought they were a playoff team, but they have to progress. And that's why I thought somewhere with an 8 in it, like 84 points, that would be a successful season for them.
Literally an improvement over last year, no question. But, yeah, they lost. I mean, last night can be an outlier for sure. They lost 8-2. They lost 7-2 to the Rangers last week. They lost to Pitt.
Blowouts.
Everyone's kind of beaten Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh kind of beat up on them. Listen, they're going to have their ups and downs. I think
especially
they're
the young D.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like Lane Hudson's having some issues, and even some of their veterans like Jack Guy, like Gooley, like those guys aren't
Jack Guy
vets.
is a 6. I think Jack Guy's lucky to be in the league. I'm sorry, he's tough, but I think he's a 6 at best.
I tend to agree with you, but on that team, he's probably going to play because they feel like they need someone like that in the lineup. Here's Jason Strudwick joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. What's happening out there, Struddy? How are we feeling about this McDavid update? Out 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it was odd, like it happens, and then right away he's not coming back, right? The PR staff kind of rolls that out, and he's going home. So I don't know. If it was the 7th defenseman, I doubt he would have gone home. They would have just kept him there. But it's Connor McDavid, so they're sending him home to get a checkup, and took a little longer than expected, but 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, I guess my concern would be not how long he's out, but are there lingering effects to this injury that extend past that 3 weeks, and how does that limit one of his most dangerous attributes, which is his skating?
Mm-hmm. That is a good question. Like, has precedent been set? The 7th defenseman gets banged up on the road. Does he say, "Where's my private bird? Back to Edmonton? Can I go home?"
No, they put him in a boot and they say, "Get on the plane." That's
right.
it.
You're taking a bus back if you'd like.
So did he pay for the bird or the team did?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
Cap circumvention or what?
There could be some cap circumvention.
No, I think you're allowed to pay for private birds. I mean,
should be able to. Yeah.
I
think he's fine. He could pay for himself if he has to. I don't think McDavid's too concerned about that. But, yeah, it feels like a fork in the road. We were discussing it last hour. Like, it hasn't been a great start for Edmonton. Yet maybe this is a spark. Glass half full. You take McDavid out, it wakes everyone else up. The glass half empty is, we're struggling and now our best player's out. We could be in some trouble here. Which road do you think they'll go down here?
This team has had slow starts before, and you look back to last year. I think they lost to Vegas, and they were devastated. And I think it carried into the beginning of the year, and it took a coaching change to spark that team out of that slumber. Maybe slumber is the wrong word, but you know what I mean. Out of that just kind of right? And now you start this year, very similar style, right? I'm sure it's devastating losing game 7. And now here they are trying to figure it out. This is a bit of a shot in the arm. No McDavid. All right, guys, well, that's 20-some minutes a night. We all got to figure out. And someone's going to get an opportunity. You don't replace Connor. But, Leon, if there's someone you want to replace Connor with, that's a pretty good start. Nugent Hopkins slotted in at second-line center today. So that's another guy. Like, he's been around a long time. So I think that they have to just, kind of rally around it. It's not 6 months. It is, let's call it 3 weeks. And they got to tread water for that long. The problem is they weren't exactly playing great. So it's not like saying, oh, we're okay, we're not going great. So I think a little bit of fear might kick this team, kind of get them going, get them turbocharged, because we really haven't seen that consistently from the Oilers through the first, 10 games.
Struddy, I was telling the guys in the 4 o'clock hour, is it as simple as some of their best players just need to play better? Because if I name some of these names right now, would you be able to tell me that those guys are playing their best? Stuart Skinner, Darnell Nurse, Matthias Ekholm, Evan Bouchard, Zach Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
Well, I think I'd have a hard time telling you one player has played well for 10 games.
That's
right?
what I mean.
So the guys, yeah, so who has really played well? Like Skinner has had some games. Hyman is working hard, but he hasn't scored yet. And so snake bitten, sure. I think Darnell is actually really being physical, and he's trying to bring that back in his game. Henrique, I think, off the top of my head, I think he has maybe 1 point. Connor Brown has 1 point. Bouchard seems to be kind of get himself going, and it's not even the offense. It's just, it seems like he's mishandling the puck. And then, you got Connor, you got Leon, who I think have another level. So I honestly, it's a general kind of, I use the word slumber, and that doesn't mean they're sleeping. They're just not, they're not going. They're not jumping like they can and have been. And, we can beat up the bottom six, but a lot of those top guys in the top six and top three defensemen aren't playing up to what we've seen before and from this team last year. But we've seen this story. We saw it last year at the same time. So I'm not really surprised, especially after the training camp they had, this exhibition series. It kind of looked like they're slumbering. So, they got to find a way to get out of this. And Knobloch, they've called up a couple people. That might help a little bit. But it's those guys at the top of the lineup that kind of just have to kind of take control of this thing and kind of get back to that level we saw. Let's just call it, since Christmas last year.
With Jason Strudwick, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how long, he's out, McDavid, and how fan bases around the league react. Like I'm sure in Nashville they're looking forward to seeing him. I believe he's in Toronto on November 16th, so that's coming up in a couple of weeks. No guarantees he'll be back in time, but this guy generally rehabs quick. I would think that would be a game he would have circled. That would be something, Struddy. If they kept their head above water and he makes his return on hockey night in Toronto, what would you expect out of him once he comes back?
Well, everyone wants to play in Toronto.
Yes, they do, especially him. He'll probably be rehabbing here, Strud. He's probably up the street right now. Should try to get him on in studio tomorrow.
He moved into Gary Roberts' basement to rehab while the mothership could just give him some juice. I guess, I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't think that really matters. He's trying to think about getting himself ready. The team's not playing well. As a captain, you feel responsible. So I guess, maybe his favorite restaurant's there. What's that one about the clams or something, or seashells by the shore restaurant or something? I don't know. But I guess maybe. But there's so many other things that are on his mind. Like he was asked the other day about who should be the captain of the Four Nations Cup, and I get it. the Canada team. Everyone has their own opinion, but his team isn't playing well. So you don't really have the luxury to just daydream and think, well, XYZ should be the captain of that team. So I don't mean to be dismissive of your question, but I just think that this team has so many things. Like, what do they have? 1 game under 500, and let's say he's out 10 games or 6, 8, 10 games. Can they go 500? They weren't 500 with him. So can they go 500 without him? Right? And then let's say they get one more injury to the top six. Now what does that look like? They could be looking at the end of November a really bad spot. And then they got kind of 3, 6, 7 defensemen, and 2 of them are playing every night. Like, there's some pretty big issues that this team has to sort out, and it doesn't get easier with 97 out. So, I'll look forward to see what they kick out at. I think Leon steps up. We've seen him step up in big moments. And then after that, everyone just kind of buckle down and just more pace and just kind of engage in games. Something I don't think they've really connected emotionally to games. And they don't have Evander Kane. So it sounds kind of doom and gloom when I bring it up, but that's kind of where the team's at right now, right? And they've got to find a way to get out of this and survive without, the most dynamic offensive player in the league other than Mitchell Marner.
Stride. What do you make of their? I mean, they have some flexibility, and you hear rumblings that they are like looking around the league to see if they could add to the defensive core. What have you made outside? And I've been critical of the top three. I don't think Darnell has found his game. I don't think Bouchard has, and I think Ekholm is a guy who's really stabilizing them, but he hasn't been the most consistent. So from 4 to 6, is there an upgrade, or do you believe that they stick with that group, or did they maybe be proactive to try and add somebody, sooner than later? Put it that way.
The second that Olimata was traded to Utah, I had to double check. I didn't know he won 3 Norris trophies. Like, Oilers fans were going crazy. This is the guy we need. We needed to get
Olimata?
Yeah.
I like Olimata, but just trading for a D-man doesn't mean he automatically becomes the top 4.
I liked him 6 years ago.
And so the challenge that they have is that Darnell Nurse, I don't think there's very many other teams in the league that their second pairing is rotating partners, right? That is the challenge. So I think Stetcher's the best fit there. He's not perfect. If he was 5 inches taller, it'd be different, but he gets pushed off pucks. So, Dermott was beside Nurse today. So you're trying to figure that out and say, okay, well, this is our top 4, but it's really 3.5 because we have one guy coming in out all the time. It's different when you're on your third pair and you're rotating guys in. We're used to that. In the third pair, we're just come on in. It's like cheers. Just come on in. We'll play with anybody. But that top 4, there needs to be more stability, and they don't quite have it right now. So, yeah, I mean, I think trading for another D-man that can play in there is great. And I heard Provorov's name out there, and I like Provorov. I'm not sure that he's a left shot. Does he want to play his offside? It's a very specific need, a right shot veteran defenseman that can play top 4. The guy that's probably perfect is playing in Calgary, Rasmus Anderson. Absolutely perfect. The problem is that is career suicide if you trade that guy to Edmonton and they win a Stanley Cup, riding him in as a top 4D. Like, that is a hard one for any GM to sell. You got to pay through the nose or sell through the nose, I guess, if you're going to be Craig Conroy. So, I think they do need to trade for that D. I haven't identified who it is. And again, there may be someone out there, but that team might be they might be feeling pretty good about their chances. So they're probably not going to make that move right away.
With Jason Strudwick, the Leafs defense got solidified long-term this week. Jake McCabe signed a 5-year extension. So they're locked in on Morgan Riley, Chris Tanev, Jake McCabe, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. What do you make of that top 4 for Toronto? And sounds like they'll be intact for at least 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, a great signing. I think that was a pretty good deal because what was it, 4.5 or something like that?
Yep, 4.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that signing. And they have, I'm not saying it's the highest end, but they at least now have some stability. You can see this is what it is. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson, since his time in Vancouver, he's transformed himself, right? I think I've spoken with you guys about him before. He never threw a hit the whole time. He went to bumper cars in Vancouver and somehow didn't touch one person. So now all of a sudden he goes to Florida, learns how to compete, and now I think he's running the power play at times there with Toronto as well. So they seem to have got some stability there, and I think that makes a difference. Having that stability and understand where you're at. Maybe the partners are changing every now and then, but I think that stability in that top 4 makes a difference. But you got to just keep on adding and keep, where's Hakanpää at? Is he going to play or is that?
Nobody knows. No one has an answer on him.
He's close.
That's the kind of contract I wanted to sign to end in my career. Maybe you play, maybe you don't. Come into the hot tub, a little bit of stim on my leg. It's kind of like a backup goalie noodles.
Except I had to carry you home at night the night before and put some fluids in you. So
the key is, Struddy, you got to get some term too. You can't just get a 1-year deal. You got to get term and just hot tub it up and say, I don't know.
Have you guys ever played with guys? Like, have you guys ever played with guys who just were on that tour where it was hot tub,
this is a phenomena that started like 5 years ago where you can just, I don't know what this stuff is. It's weird, but as Struddy said, it would be a great gig if you can get it.
I played with Ray Whitney, the little wizard. He was in San Jose. He got sent down to the Lexington Trailblazers where I was playing, and he was fine. He arrived healthy. He could never play. His back was sore every game. And I remember I'm going out there. I'm fighting every creature they can drag up from the bottom of the ocean. And I'm like, can you help us out? Kenny plays like starting my back's bad. He got traded, I think, from San Jose to wherever he went. He played the next day. It's like Devontae Adams. He was 100% fresh. Meanwhile, I'm fighting I'm like, just please come and play. And he did not. I don't think he played a game. And the gentleman Jim Wiley, our head coach, didn't have a problem with it. I'm like, how is this fair? Like, I'd like a night off too, instead of fighting these mutants every night.
Yeah, the Devontae Adams one was hysterical. He called his own shot, said, can't go in Vegas. Put me on the injured list or whatever. Call it whatever you want. I'm not playing. The second he got to New York, activated, playing.
Who was the basketball player with the fat suit on? What was that?
Well, it's James Harden when he wanted out.
Yeah, that was it.
Harden was dying in Brooklyn, dying to get out of there. Goes to Philly, and he plays 48 minutes the next night.
Yeah, unbelievable. Just and all of a sudden, like, lost 20 pounds
Pillar
in a
of
day.
health. Pillar of health the next night. Yeah, I know the Hakanpää stuff is curious to me because, like, he was on the trip recently and, like, he's skating, but I don't think he's going to be a guy you can rely on to play much.
It'll be an adventure if he gets. It'll be much like the guy last year from Dallas. Like, it's so he gets in there and it's like all of a sudden they're just gone.
Oh,
like
Klingberg.
Klingberg, yeah. Like, Hayes, would it shock you if Hakanpää gets in there, plays one game, has a little tweak, skates off the ice, and you never see him again?
No.
Would that shock you?
No, that's not in the least.
I'm done.
No.
Yeah, not in the least. So listen, it's still early enough in the season where you can have an impact on your team, and if you play 40 games, is that enough? Possibly, and maybe that's what the Leafs knew they were getting. When they signed him, is simply almost as like a trade deadline acquisition, who won't play up until you get closer to the trade deadline. But it is a pretty good gig, just rehab and get paid, because every 2 weeks he's getting paid. He's making money. It's not a bad gig.
What about Evander Kane, Struddy? What's any word on that?
No, just what we heard earlier, that he'd be back some point, I think it was 4 to 5 months, whatever it was. Like, I kind of worked out to February, March. But if you get to that point, do you wait for him to come later? But the one thing for the Oilers is that they're really not physical, right? And they lost Holloway, who is, fast and like to hit. But Evander Kane he hits a lot. I think he was the team, if not the team leader, one of the team leaders. And he's a hitter, and he gets guys going inside that room, and just very upsetting for everybody on the other team. So they miss him, right? So now you have him out, you have McDavid out, you've lost, I think, two guys, Broberg and Holloway, that make a difference with size and speed. And, it's tough. You're trying to figure this out. So Knobloch's going to make his money now. It's going to be a tough one to figure out here. And the problem, too, is your power play isn't going. And, I think the Leafs have also been kind of struggling with their power play. And, you can win games just on your power play, but you can also lose games because it sucks the energy out of the rest of the team. And those skilled guys like O-Dog, if you're not getting points on the power play, you feel like you're letting the team down. Then you go 5-on-5, and it's not like you're feeling great about yourself there either.
No, you got to get your mojo going on the power play. That just goes without saying. We've been talking about that all year, Struddy. But do you think with McDavid out, Knobloch would have not the stones, but do you think he would address the group and say, guys, we got to find a way to 2-1 and 3-1 this thing until McDavid gets back? I know they got to that last year where they found their game and they got them out of the ditch. Like, that seems like the only way they can get out of this. And they need Skinner to step up. They need their D-core to step up. And they need some guys other than Draisaitl to also step up offensively to do that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the Oilers, they've worked towards that type of hockey where you're really limited to other teams' chances. And some games it's been there, but last game specifically, and maybe we'll give them a pass because it was one of those games you're going to lose. McDavid is out, but they were so puck focused. And for the guys that don't know what I mean, that's where the puck's behind the net and you're just staring at the puck, and stuff's going on behind you. You have no idea. Like, there's a goal that I think it was a D-man shot it off the back wall, and one of the Oilers defensemen was watching the puck. It bounced off the back wall, and Sean Monahan tapped it in. That was a 6-inch tap-in. Those are the ones he dreams of, right? That's the easiest goal to ever score. So it's, that's the things you have to look at. And those are those little habits they did get into. But I go back to my early statement. they're in a bit of a slumber. They're not quite zipping like they can. You know, you got to score goals, but you can defend. Anyone can defend if they try hard. So I do think that's maybe something they'll bring up. But the challenge is, you know, it hasn't worked that well, and then their penalty kill is really off the rhythm. That might be the biggest surprise. You know, outside of the power play, is that penalty kill is really struggling. So it's, you know, there's not just one thing that's going to fix it. You know, usually McDavid's the answer to everything. Now he's not there, so now you got to figure out how do we get this going and make it make sense for our group while he's out. But opportunity, right? Opportunity to have a bit of a shot in the arm and kind of get yourself going.
Struddy, were you the third guy trying to pull that ball out of the guy's glove last night, Mookie Betts' glove? What do you make of that?
That is so New York. That is so New York. Like, it's just, they don't care. And I saw the guy's comments today. He's like, did he say something like, you're supposed to be able to do that or something? Like, it is just, that is pure New York right there, 100%. You know, it's just, you put your bagel down for 2 seconds, someone walks by and grabs it, and it's like, oh, you left it there, it was mine. Like, it's just such an intense place. Such an intense place.
Yeah. Well, that's it, man. He's turned into this, like, folk hero there. I've been watching online, people taking pictures with him and saying this guy turned the tables of the whole World Series, like the Yankees won last night because this guy was battling.
If they do march back, if they somehow come back and make this a series, that will be the TSN turning point.
100%. That guy will get credit for the World Series swinging their direction.
Do you guys remember when the Cubs were playing? And I think it was it Steve Bartman?
Steve Bartman,
he had headphones on. He reached out, and I was playing for the Blackhawks at that time. I felt sick about that guy. Like, I'd go into a bar, and people were like, that Bartman ruined it. Like, he was just, everyone knew his name, you know, and they hated this guy. And I felt he was just like a nice guy and just trying to enjoy the game, you know, like just crazy. So
you were in Chicago. You were in Chicago for Bartman. That's a wild scene, man.
That is wild.
It was crazy. It was, and like everyone knew his name in a bad way. Like that's a terrible feeling, right? Where you're like, everyone just wants to they hate you.
Yeah.
He's just enjoying the game. Listen to whatever, right? Listen to his headphones.
I love it. I love Strutty says I'd walk into a bar, not a restaurant, not go get the paper or coffee in the morning. The bars are buzzing in Chicago about Steve Bartman.
Yeah, he's in Viagra
we
Triangle.
were very good back then.
Oh, yeah. That was right before they popped. You guys set the foundation for Taves and Kane and Keith and Seabrook and all the boys. Absolutely.
Yeah, all of them.
All the boys. All right, Strut.
Barnaby.
Yep. We'll leave it there. We'll do it again soon. Thank you, buddy.
Boys.
There he is.
We'll talk to
you. You cut him off. Jason Strudwick
cut off.
Joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline.
I forgot. Like Strutty played for the Blackhawks for a while.
Couple of years. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, that was because it was in 03 Bartman, and he was there in 02, 03, and 03, 04.
Strutty and Bartman.
Their team stunk.
That's a podcast name.
Strutty and Bartman.
Yeah, they were in a rebuild big time back then.
Yeah, they had some grizzled vets though. Like on that first, I think Stumpy Thomas was on that team.
Was Lyle Odeline?
Lyle Odeline was on that. Phil Housley was there. I don't see Dougie on this one. Dougie definitely went through Chicago, but
yeah. No, they had some. I think was Denny Savard the coach. I swear he was the coach.
It was Brian Sutter, and Denny Savard was the assistant coach in 02-03. Theron Fleury was on the team.
Yeah. Well, Fleury got himself, like Strutty was there that night when Fleury got himself in some trouble in Columbus. I think the story is crazy. Like, I think the Blackhawks hired a guy to chaperone him, and that guy was out with Fleury instead of helping.
Way.
Yeah, it's something weird. It was a weird story.
Nice hire. Like you might want to get that one right.
Yeah. But Strutty was there through all of that nonsense. It was
this team had a ton of big names on it though. Like, listen to these guys. So Steve Sullivan was on that team.
Yeah.
Alex Jamnov, Eric Daze, Theron Fleury, Sergei Berezin was on the team. Mark Bell, we saw Mark recently. Phil Housley, Chris Simon, Stumpy Thomas.
How was that team not good?
Lyle Odeline, Mike Eastwood, Igor Korolev, like half the Leafs were on this team.
So
Boris Mironov.
You're looking at 02-03. Go to the next year.
Gary Volk was. Todd Gill was. The whole Leaf team was on this.
Dude, you're crapping me.
I'm
with
not
those
kidding
names.
you, man. I'm looking at Hockey DB right now. Gary Volk, Todd Gill, Boris Mironov, Igor Korolev, Mike Eastwood,
Karpatsev.
Alex Karpatsev was a Leaf.
Yeah.
Stumpy was a Leaf. Phil Housley was a Leaf for a while. Berezin was a Leaf. Steve Sullivan. Like, literally, their whole team were former Leafs.
Wow.
Louis DeBrusque played 4 games.
Yeah, there was some.
Wow, man.
That
Jocelyn
team,
Thibault.
Yeah, who were their goalies there? Thibault,
Mike Layton, Steve Passmore, Craig Anderson must have been a kid.
Yeah, must have just started.
Mr. Anderson just getting his career started.
Man, oh man.
Wow.
That year.
What a team.
The next year was, I think, their worst year.
It got ugly.
Well,
That's when they tanked for like Taves and Kane.
Yeah,
and
Tyler Anderson was their best player. And then Brian Berard and Mark Bell and Kyle Calder, Nathan Dempsey. That's when it got thin.
I cannot believe how many former Leafs were on this team in 02-03. Like,
that's a big.
Crazy. Michael Nylander was there for 9 games. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
All right, arbitration coming up. Darren Dreger still to come. Dallas Braden on Game 5 of the World Series tonight. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, arbitration. We haven't done this in a while. Brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar, from tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza. BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice cold beers always dialed in for game time. Hustle in your local BP tonight. All right, arbitration. A player, a team, a coach, fan base, whatever walks into arbitration, they are awarded something, and then we determine whether or not they should take it or leave it. Pretty simple stuff.
Yep.
Matthew Knies, he's in arbitration. He is awarded an 8-year extension at $5 million per year. Should he take it or leave it?
Oh, you know what? I would take it. I would take it just because if someone's going to offer me an 8-year deal, I don't know how this is going to play out. I might be a 30-goal guy. I get the opportunity to play with incredible players. But I don't know. That would be the number to get me at least thinking, like, I'm going to be paid $5 million US for the next 8 years. My life's going to be set, pretty much. Like, It's hard to butcher that. So it's like, but then he's going to be maybe 5's. I'm taking it. I'm sorry.
It's a good number.
Yeah. It is. It's a number that really got me thinking.
Makes
where I'm
you
like,
think.
I'm just going to take it
long term.
I would take it personally as a player. I think he leaves it, and
just because of the money being tossed around.
Yeah, but I don't. The money being tossed around, but he also has to be careful. The guy who, like, yes, Austin Matthews available. The other guy's on an expiring contract that he's playing with. So if the replacement, if that guy decides to move on, and just through osmosis, we don't know, and I'm not suggesting he moves on or anything, but if the other guy, Mitch Marner, who doesn't have a contract for next year, if he moves on and his replacement doesn't have the chemistry, and they change the top line, and maybe it looks a little different, maybe his production goes down. Like, there's a bunch of what ifs, and I'm with I like security, but I don't think he'll take it, because if he ends up getting 30 goals and 40 assists, 35 assists this year and gets 65 points, the going rate is north of $5 million a year.
It is, especially considering his argument will be, I'm going to be better in 3 years, 4 years, because I'm just figuring this league out and I'm young. And I think he's done a lot of stuff on his own, obviously benefiting from his teammates, but I don't think he's just been riding their coattails. Like, this guy, He's been battling, he's been physical, he's been on it. I think he's made a lot of plays by himself. But I would take this if I were him. And I think he probably – I think you might be right. He might pass on it, but then you might get bridged. Like, and then it's a 2 or 3 year deal at, a few million, 3.5, 4 million, maybe something like that. And then what if you have injuries? What if you're not the player that you think you're going to be?
That's why the number gets your attention.
That's why I take it. And furthermore, it's not only that, like the money is the big thing, clearly, but you're in the National Hockey League for 8 more years, guaranteed. There's a part of my mentality that would be thinking like, Dad, I get to play in the league for 8 years. if I sign an 8-year deal. Sign me up, man.
Well,
I'm taking that.
But he's 22. That would put him to 30, or we'll call it when he signs it when he's 23.
Pretty good career, man. You can get to 1,000 games.
But I think a lot of these players, they look at it a different way. Is like, I can do better. Mm-hmm. That's the worst I can do. I can do better.
Sure.
The only thing that would cause me some pause is everywhere in his career he hasn't been this prolific scorer. He hasn't really been, a guy who in college or whatever got 40 goals in 40 games or whatever. Like his last year at University of Minnesota, he had 21 goals in 40 games. It's nice, but it's college. Like,
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, so if he gets 30, that might be his ceiling. Maybe his ceiling is in something with a 3 in it. I don't know what that pays. Like, to me, I think in his mind he believes 5 he would blow through that. I don't know.
He might. And listen, if you're confident, I have a lot of time and respect for any athlete that has that kind of confidence. But it's a gamble in doing so. All right, Bronny James walks into arbitration. He is awarded 250 games played in his career.
Take it.
Is this a joke?
The minute his dad is gone, they'll flush him down the toilet.
They might. They might.
He'll be flushed out of the organization. I don't think LeBron's playing after this year.
He may not, although he still looks great, man. Like he had a triple-double the other night. The guy still looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like Bronny played the 2 minutes, and now it's just go sit down there, please.
Well, he's been sent to the G League, hasn't he?
He's on this road trip they're currently on. They're in Toronto on Friday, and when he comes back, he will be sent down.
So that was the gig. It was like you're going to step on the court for the home opener, then you're going to get to go on a road trip with your old man, and then once you get back, the party's over. Basically.
Probably exactly what has been agreed upon. Yes. So you're saying he should take the 250
Of course.
games.
He'll never play 250
but
games.
That's why he might leave it, because he doesn't need to play 250. He doesn't need to do anything. The guy, his
old man is a
his dad's a billionaire. Exactly.
Yeah, but you want to carve out your own thing.
But would 250 carve it out, Noodles? Like, if he plays 250, is that good enough for him? Why wouldn't you let it ride and just say, screw it, man? Hopefully I can actually be a player and play 800 games in the league.
Okay, so let's define. I know we can't do this, but is it 250 of being a bench player and playing 8 minutes a night?
Basically.
Okay,
probably.
So
that's
probably
4 or 5 years in the league, kind of finds a minute or two here or there. And then
I think it's established
out.
that he will not be much more than that. Like, not one expert or one talking head in the NBA has said, given some time, this guy could turn into a stud. Not one.
No, doesn't
You would
seem
think
so.
one person would say, over time you watch, this guy's going to be brilliant. Not one person has said that.
Right. Yeah.
No, I hear you.
No.
I feel bad for the kid. It's just, it could have been left alone, and he could have just carved out his own path, but his dad got involved. He was a powerful dude. And this is where we're at, man.
If his dad wasn't involved, he'd be
not even drafted.
who knows where he'd be even in college, man. He went to USC.
No kidding, man. He might not
Rick,
even be on that team in college.
Yeah, he would be Rick James, and he wouldn't be playing. Yeah,
he would be a Guelph Griffin.
I don't know if he'd be a Guelph Griffin necessarily, but it would not.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd be at USC. He obviously would not be in the NBA. I mean, that goes without saying. Clearly, he would not be in the NBA. All right. Patrick Mahomes walks into arbitration. He is offered 3 more Super Bowls in his career. 3 more. And that's it. Does he take it or leave it?
He absolutely takes it. Because injuries just... You just catch a team. Like, it's going to be hard for him to get 3 more. As much as everyone's, like, drooling over undefeated again and they're going to do it again... Hayes, you know stupid stuff happens in the playoffs. You might just catch one game, might injure. Who knows? It's awfully difficult. Not everything is this guy looks like it's going to be automatic like Tom Brady, but I just can't see that happening again. I'd take it all day long.
3 is a big number.
Massive.
That would mean
I'd
6
take
total.
It. But
6
you
total.
take it every day of the week. Every day of the week. With the parity, some of the teams that are coming around him, like I don't know. They are, yes. What are they, 8-0? I mean, it's hard to argue.
Yeah, perfect so far. I mean,
but so would you lay? Here's a question for both of you. Would you lay what would you lay to say they are winning this year? Like, what would your bet? Like,
they're a big favorite, obviously. I mean, you're getting plus money on that bet, Noodles, because you're playing against the field and there's other good teams. And I'm on record prior to the year, and I can't budge now, saying I don't think they'll do it just because history would suggest it's so hard to do. No one's ever won 3 in a row. But, man, they look good. Like, they look phenomenal. And they've added pieces at the deadline, and they're likely going to win the top seed in the AFC, which means they'll have a bye week 1. Everything's got to go through Arrowhead. It's going to be very difficult to beat them. Very, very difficult. But I will say on this one, I think you pass because Brady's got 7. And if you take this, you're at 6, and Brady will always have that over you. And I think if you're Mahomes and you've already put yourself in a position where it's you or Brady, basically, you probably got to get him in the Super Bowl category. Not for everyone. Some people believe he's the greatest of all time right now. Could not play another game, and he's greater than Brady. But Brady's got 7, and he's 29 years old. I don't know, man. I think he might say stuff it, which is crazy to think.
That is crazy. That's
crazy to think.
That is crazy, and that would never happen. But just a little point, guys. Bronny James is playing in Cleveland tonight. Guess what his over-under point total is?
0.5?
1.5.
Under.
So, 1 bucket.
Yeah,
You're basically saying,
maybe he goes to the line, Noodles, gets fouled, and misses a free throw.
But it's like when you see that, and not you obviously as an athlete you're trying to avoid the noise, but when you look and you just see a random tweet that says this dude's over/under point total is 1.5.
I'm surprised it's not 0.5.
Really?
Like I'm genuinely.
Come on, dude.
I'm because is he going to play? You know what I mean? Like, he hasn't been playing.
Dude, it's going to be the same thing. He's going to, like, LeBron and Bronny are going to have their moment where they take their tracksuits off and they're getting there and everyone's going to get all fired up and Bronny's going to say, he's going to hold him up like Simba.
Yeah.
And then they're going to go out there and that's it.
He'll play because it's his hometown, too.
Of course.
You know, he's from Akron.
I guarantee you that they are going to force feed him. His dad will make sure he's force fed.
You think he goes over the number tonight?
Yes,
you bet
I
that?
do. I'd put money on it that he gets over because his dad will bully his way around the court.
This guy couldn't score the ball. By the way, did you see that? You want to talk about a guy, and we talked about draft picks. That Anthony Edwards in the first quarter last night, you want to talk about shooting the ball? That guy's a stud.
Yes, he is.
A stud.
He is.
But this Bronny James in Summer League couldn't score the ball.
No, it was ugly. In
Summer
League,
were embarrassed tweeting out. They're like, this is kind of tough to watch. This is not good.
His point differential
his dad
is
is going to be right beside him, though. Like, his dad might drive the lane and then hand him the ball and lift him up to put it in. I'm telling you.
It's possible. That should be a prop. Will LeBron somehow help
assist on it. Yes,
Bronny get points tonight?
For sure.
Possibly.
Yeah.
All right, we'll come back with a couple more arbitrations. Dregs still to come. Dallas Braden still to come. And our best bets coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, arbitration continuing here. We were talking about Patrick Mahomes, Bronny James, Matthew Knies. Zach Hyman is being called into arbitration. Zach Hyman walks into arbitration. He is awarded 20 goals on the season. Does he take it or leave it?
Leave it. You don't go from 50 to say sign me up for 20.
Yeah.
He's got to find a way to get 30 goals this year.
He's got 0 through 10.
Dude, I get it.
Okay.
I get it. I don't think he's going to go. Like, I think I really like Connor Brown as a player. He went a long time last year without scoring a goal. I don't think Zach Hyman's going to do that.
Yeah, I would leave it because I think 20 is too low. If you would have said 30, I would have said sign me up. But at 20, I think is too low.
25? What's your number? Let's barter here.
30.
Okay, 29? Would you take 29?
It's something with a 3 in it. It's something with a 3 in it.
I'll tell you what, if he was offered 29, Zach Hyman would climb up a ladder and cannonball on 29 right now.
I don't think so.
I do.
Think so. No.
You've been in that dark place, dude. When you haven't scored in 10 games, you think you're never going to score again.
I know,
now McDavid's
guess
hurt?
What he's going to do? Guess what do they play tonight in Nashville?
No, they play tomorrow.
They're going to go to Nashville, and he's going to stand in front of the net and bank one in, or one's going to go off his ass, and he'll be on his way. You mark my. I'll bet. What odds would you give me that he scores in Nashville?
Well, the other thing too is and
Tell
if
me.
you've watched the games, he's got 28 shots on goal. Like he's getting breakaways and in alone. Like that's not.
He's
going to
score in Nashville and he's going to take off. Mark my words.
Right.
I'll bet you.
Yeah.
And give me odds on.
I don't want to
hunch.
bet against Zach.
Give me
Hyman.
give me odds on a
No,
hunch.
you just bet against him. You offered 20 goals for the season.
I think I'd take 20 right now. I think I went with McDavid out for 10 to 12 games or whatever, and I haven't scored in 10. 20's not great, but it's 20. You know, like 20's not awful.
70 games left. They have 72 games left.
How many goals did you think he was going to score anyway this year? 40?
I thought probably something with a 4 in it. Yeah.
I thought so too. To be clear, I'm not saying I predicted anything else. I thought he'd still have a great year, and he very well could. He very well could, but it's
Not
just been
according to you. He's done. That's
dude.
it.
He
Done.
hasn't scored a goal in 10 games. Not me. I'm not
You
the one
guys have
playing.
Wyatt Johnston on the team, whatever that is. The guy's got 1 goal this year.
Wyatt's been
Like-
good, man, playing with
Well,
good
he's been
players.
great. Got 5 points. in
Mitch
10
Marner's
games.
got 1 goal. He's on the top line too.
That's what I'm saying. So Mitch Marner, I'm telling you, I think we're
right.
just it's too early in the season. We're still in October. The season started 2 weeks ago.
All right. There you go. Arbitration brought to you by Boston Pizza. Canada's favorite sports bar, from tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza. BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice cold beers, always dialed in for game time. Hustle in your local BP tonight. Final hour coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.